الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله وأمين على وحيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have, and we are completely dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all our needs. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ وَأَنْتُمُ الْفُقَرَاءُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ هُوَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ. Today, inshallah, as we should always do, whether in Jumu'ah, whether we get together, Muslims should always try to remind one another of our duties and obligations and try to support each other fulfilling those duties and obligations. Imam Shafi'i, when he said that if Allah has revealed only Surah Al-Asr, it will be enough, it's for a reason, because of his in-depth understanding of this surah. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. That's what you do. Those who have faith, do good deeds, and then collectively what they do, they remind one another of what needs to be done, and they work together to get it done. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. I'm going to share with you two short stories so that we can, inshallah, learn some lessons from them. These are real life stories. First is something that I emphasized before in a series of khotbah because of one major incident that took place in the community, if you remember, like a year or two ago. And that's the importance of mental health and paying attention to this in our families. Just recently, a couple of cases of families who were very late to realize there is some issues with their children, and they tried, haphazard patchwork. Sometimes we have the tendency to feel that we are expert in everything, so and then it's only late they found out that things became very serious, that because of that delay in seeking counseling. I get news like this all the time, either because of young people or because families, they live in denial for a long time, for too long, and they delay seeking counseling until things deteriorate and become much more serious. I strongly recommend for us to have this in our culture. It should become very normal for individuals or families to seek counseling. It's not shame, it's not shameful, it's not the end of the world, there is nothing wrong with it. We're living in a very advanced society where these things are being seen and considered the same way as physical problems. You have a physical problem, you go to a doctor. You have psychological or mental problem, you go to a doctor. We're gonna get rid of that idea, taking it as a matter of pride and try to resist it and no, I'm okay. No, if there is something wrong, we have to seek counseling and seek early, because things can become very serious, even for the individual himself or for the whole family. The second piece of information I think is very useful for us, for all of us. I just came to know that two people close to one another, one of them asked the other for help, for loan. And the one who were asked can afford it, can afford it very easily and with no problem. So he refused. Subhanallah, it's after a few days or a couple of weeks, he got an audit or a penalty of exactly the same amount that he was asked. Exactly. Same amount. So you refused to pay it as a loan, you pay it as a penalty. And it was shocking for me the amounts that were exact. So the lesson from here, I know that there are some cases where people helped and they were abused, and I understand that, but keep in mind that you should not allow one case or one bad experience to prevent you from helping if you can. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَإِن كَانَ ذُو عُسْرَةٍ فَنَظِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ. If you happen to help someone and that person goes into hardship and difficulty and is unable to give your money, pay you back, just be tolerant, especially if you can afford it. Of course, I'm not saying that to tolerate abuse, because there is abuse, unfortunately, in our communities and in our societies, but just find the middle course, fine line of helping, and then be tolerant for those who cannot afford to pay you back or delay, but also at the same time don't allow yourself to be subject to abuse. The topic that I chose to talk about today is basically something that should be always in our mind, and we should be thinking of it all the time, and we should try to find a solution to it. And this is the gap between where we are and where we are. That applies to community, applies to Muslim countries and societies, and where we are supposed to be, where we are and where we are supposed to be, or between where we are and where we could be. That even adds to the pain that not only we're supposed to be at a very different level, but we can. We have the means, we have the talents, we have the resources, we have everything to be there. We just cannot manage to find the formula to get us to that point. So this is something that we should not neglect it, we should not ignore it, because it is very serious. The gap is very widening. The gap is very widening, not only between where we are and where we're supposed to be, but where Muslims are and where other nations are. I'm sure when you are surfing and reading the news, you see the kind of news that comes to you from other places, achievements, advances, etc. And then the kind of news that comes to you from Muslim world. It's amazing. It's really amazing. It's either a disaster or oppression or corruption or nonsense or all kind, mediocrity, you name it. While people are really flying in terms of technology, in terms of science, in terms of achievement, etc. So it's not only that there is a gap and it's very large, but it is widening. And to the point that basically our relevance in this world became under question, because our contribution is very minimum. I mean, what is it that we are contributing to this world? What is it that Muslims who at certain point in time were at the forefront of civilization, what is it that we are contributing? So we need to be aware of this, and we need to accept it. So we have to stop denial and stop living in illusion. This idea that we are okay, and inshallah we're going to be okay, and Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, and we are successful, and look at the mosques are full. We're going to have to get rid of this, because this is getting us nowhere. These are not performance indicators. Numbers didn't mean anything. 1.5 billion, and we're barely unable to do much. So all these illusions, all these soothing statement that we keep using, we have to get rid of them and confront the reality. And let me clarify something, because I get this discussion all the time. Confronting the reality and describing it as is, it is not pessimism. It's the other way around. When you talk about the reality as is, meaning that you have a hope and you are determined to help solving it. If it is hopeless, I wouldn't talk about it. I try to run away from it. Like people, when they have problems, they go to drinking, they go to drugs. That's running away. Yes, they look happy. They look happy and they look optimistic, but that means nothing. They are pessimistic because they run away from the problem. They gave up on solving the problem. Those who talk about problems are not pessimistic. Those in الرائد لا يكذب أهله. People who know something, they should say it as is. Shouldn't try to deceive or fool your people, even with good intention. Sometimes in terms of saying, we need to give hope to people. Yes, we need to give hope to people, but not illusions. And you give them hope after you tell them the reality as is. So we have to be, not only, it's not pessimism, it's bravery and honesty. It's a sign of those who confront the reality as is and have the guts to do it. They are people who are brave, and they are people who are honest. Those who don't, they're missing one of them. Either they are very shaky, they cannot confront the reality, or they may not be honest. Or they might be living in illusion themselves. So we're going to have to be aware of this. It has to be on the table all the time, in our gatherings, in our discussions, whether it is face-to-face or virtual. Try to bring people from this laghu, which is the vain talk, which is talking about issues but doing nothing about it, which is very widely spread nowadays, especially online, especially in the social media. People are talking and talking about issues, but nobody asks why this is going on, what can we do about it? And when you try to bring the discussion to this point, people will tell you that you are pessimistic. You need to stay optimistic. Inshallah, things will work. We are on the right track and things are moving, which I don't know where and how they see it. So not only we need to be aware and to accept, but we have to be concerned. من لم يهتم بأمر المسلمين فليس منهم. If you are not concerned with the state situation of Muslims, you are not one of them. Because this time we have to resist this tendency of being concerned only with myself and my little family. And the rest of the world I don't care about. That's the tendency nowadays. There are reasons for this, but we can talk about it another time. There are reasons that the tendency among Muslims is to mind your own business. And it came to a point while even relatives were not even concerned about it. It's just the immediate family, small family. I'm okay, my family is okay, I don't care about the rest. It's very sad and has to be changed and fixed. We need to be concerned because of this hadith and because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed us to be managers on this world. And there is no manager who say, I don't care about the company or I don't care about what's going on. That's if you are a worker. You can do your job and go home if you are an employee. But if you are a manager, you are responsible to deliver, responsible for the results. Even if you stay late at night, you work at the weekend, they don't care, right? You're not an employee who will work 8 hours and say, I did my work, I don't care about the results or the deliverable. And then, of course, you need to remember that when it comes to the community, you are a member of the community. When it comes to society, you are a citizen. And community member and citizen means you are a stakeholder. You are stakeholder, meaning that the situation matters for you. You are part of it. Because a lot of time we have this tendency of taking a distance and starting criticizing, discussing, adopting the mindset of spectator, not stakeholder. And that has to change. Gonna move from being spectator who's watching passively to stakeholder who does something about what's going on. And move from description to diagnosis. That's what I like to see in our gatherings, to reduce the amount of time we spend on description. Because a lot of time when we sit down together, we start talking Palestine, Kashmir, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, etc. Talking, describing, repeating statement that was made, talking about incident, talking, and then we go home. To the point that as if now we think that when we talk about something, that's our duty about it. And this is the ones who are interested even, because there are some people, even this They don't even reach this level. They are so careless and indifferent, they don't even monitor what's going on. So, from describing what's going on to trying to diagnose what's going on. Why? What went wrong? Where did we fail? What can we do about it? Keep these questions in mind. Try to bring them in every gathering you find yourself. When you find people drifting toward laghu, toward vain talk, chatting, try to bring the subject to say, guys, let's try to get something useful out of this meeting. Each one of us has to be thinking of solutions and ways to change the situation. Each, that's an individual responsibility. And it is a collective responsibility. So individually and collectively, this should be in mind all the time and should be in our discussions and in our gathering. It's a question that was raised like 1 century ago. Why Muslims and Arabs and Muslims lag behind while other nations have advanced? Still, after a century, the question is still very valid. Why? Because we never addressed it. We did not address the why. We didn't get to the root causes of the problem to try to solve it. And not only being concerned, because that's good, and diagnosis is even better, but also you need to hold yourself accountable for what happened and responsible for changing it. This reality that you see, either in your community or in your family, in your life, in wherever, the reality that you see, it is the result of what we did and what we failed to do. Things do not happen by coincidence. You reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. So whatever you invested, that's what you're getting. So don't complain about your family is dysfunctional or your child was not well raised. That's our product. And don't complain about community is not well managed, or all these complaining, all this description we have to get rid of all that mindset. And then again, resist the temptation to talk about subjects and then think that as long as I'm okay and my family are okay, then it doesn't matter. That's not true. First of all, it's wrong. Islamically, it's wrong to think this way. Islamically, it is wrong to be selfish and think only about yourself and your immediate family. It's wrong. Islamically, it is wrong because of your responsibility and your mission as a Muslim. But also, time and again, that showed that this is very ineffective. If you are not part of a healthy community, if you are not part of a healthy society, is going to come to you sooner or later. And the Rasul ﷺ made it so clear for us with the hadith of the ship, that if you allow somebody to dig a hole in the ship, everybody will suffer and everybody will suffer the consequences. So there is no such thing as I'm okay. You take care of yourself and your family, yes. You try to help with your extended family. You try to help with your community, with your city, with your neighborhood, with all the circles that you belong to. You try to be part of the solution and part of the change. So I wish that our interactions and our gatherings and our meetings, again, whether they are face-to-face or virtual, start to be focusing on this topic. Why we need to do it? Again, because what's happening today is not our destiny. We can do a lot better than this. I can give you an example. In this community and in every Muslim community that I was part of or I was exposed to, the amount of resources and talents, capacities, amazing, but hardly anybody is aware of it. You find individuals who come and pray with us and they go, you don't know them. And once I come to know this person and I find so much experience, so much expertise, so much resources, very big network, nobody is leveraging it. We're not even aware of what we have. Never mind to leverage it. Sometimes you find the vision is there. The talents are there. The human resources are there. The financial resources are there, but we're going nowhere. Why? Because these are just ingredients. They're not cooked. They're not put together to produce something. And it is about time to try to solve this and try to find a way, first of all, to be aware of what we have and to try to leverage that to close that gap that I was talking about. So the focus in our discussion should be why this is the case. After confronting the reality as is, how can we fix it? What can we do about it? What each one of us can do about it. Now, change starts from the individual. إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. Allah will not change the conditions of people until they themselves change. So change starts here, which sometimes we ignore because we focus everywhere in the world, but we forget about where change starts. So change starts with individual. And then this individual who goes through transformation can affect change in his circles. Each one of us is part of many circles. If you go through transformation, then you can try to pull people around you. You try to affect and has positive impact on the circles that you belong to. Starting with your family, your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, whatever. As you go through that transformation, you can start affecting. That's the explanation or interpretation of this verse. إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. Those who change becomes agents of change. It's not like you change and Allah will change the conditions. Don't get it this way. But the individuals who change themselves, they affect change. But it is the change that Allah affects through your efforts. So it's not like I'm going to go home and try to be a better person and then Allah will change my conditions. No. You change and then you become an agent of change. And then these individuals who go through transformation and start being part of change in their circles should come together. That's even another level. And all of these are requirements for Muslims. They are not optional. Should come together to work collectively in affecting change in the society at large. Because no matter how much we can do as individuals, we still need that collective component to affect change in society. And they're required to come together in a community that mirrors the prophetic community. Not community like ours. Not the community that you see today around the mosques. People who come pray and go home. Community that mirrors and mimics the prophetic community. Community with a mission, community with leadership, community with the brotherhood, with discipline, etc. We're not talking about loose community. We're talking about community that is built to carry a mission and built to affect change and built with proper leadership. There is no other recipe. I mean, if we put this on the side, there is no other solution. And this is not something that I came up with. These are things that are very basic. Show me any change in the world, it happened this way. By Muslims or non-Muslims. By anybody. So if we are serious, and we should be, we're going to have to start, first of all, focus on this issue and try to implement this recipe or blueprint, which is individuals go through transformation, which I'm going to elaborate on, inshallah, and then start becoming agent of change in their circles, and then come together in a community that mirrors and matches or similar to the prophetic community to affect change in the society at large. Now, when it comes to change of the individual, all the change that is needed for us starts here. Our major problem is a mindset. For a number of reasons. there was a big damage to the Muslim mind and the Muslim personality. Without elaborating on the reasons, mainly oppression for a very long time. That's probably one of the main factors. Superficial understanding of the deen, abandoning mission, you name it. And we need to focus on the reasons. But the outcome is what? Is a big damage. There was a big damage that happened to the Muslim mind and the Muslim personality. That reflects itself in where? Reflects itself in the way we behave, in the way we interact, in the way we think, in our aspirations, which became very low. All of this is the problem of behavior, problem of akhlaq, manners, problem of muamalat, interaction, problem in the family. All these problems, they have their roots here. It's a problem of mindset and personality that lived for so long under oppression that became damaged and has to be repaired. So almost all problems can be traced to this, and the amount of damage that happened really requires a revolution. Now, revolution doesn't mean going to the street, etc. It means big change. Revolutions meaning big change. So it's not really minor improvement or fixing or band-aid or patchwork. No, we're requiring really fundamental change. Big change in the way we think, in the way we conduct ourselves, in our perspective on life, in the way we build our families and manage it, in the way we raise our children, in the way of doing almost everything. If we are serious about this, and we want to take this journey, the starting point for that revolution, for that change of the individual, the starting point is our understanding of the deen, and our understanding of life must change fundamentally, because they are really very deficient, to say the least. Again, understanding of deen and understanding of life. Both of them have to be really, both need a revolution or fundamental change, because they have major deficiency. Now, when I say our understanding of the deen, meaning what? I always focus on three major items. One is our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be fixed. It's a very superficial, and that's not going to produce anything. Our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is weak because our knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is weak. So that has to be fixed. Tawheed. The real Tawheed that will produce vibrant spirituality. That makes you someone who's very motivated and very determined, etc. The kind of feeling that we read about it in the companions. By the way, the companions, when they came to Islam, before they came to Islam, the amount of damage was bigger than now. These people, they were worshipping idols. These people, they were belonging to tribes who were fighting each other for silly issues for years. And you can see what Islam did to them. The change that happens in their mindset and in their life, in their behavior, in their personality, in everything. And I recommended before, I keep recommending, read the stories of the Sahaba, companions before and after Islam. You will see what real Islam means. What does it do in people? Second is, Islam is a mission. Without understanding the mission, Islam is not rituals. Islam is not about halal and haram. It's much bigger than that. Islam is a life mission that you commit to. Yet you dedicate yourself. You become someone who's on a mission, who has a cause, who is living a life that is much bigger than himself. So understanding that mission deeply, clearly, is required. And that requires that we educate ourselves and try to improve and sharpen our understanding all the time. Never feel that you are there already. And then the goals of Islam, maqasid, because that will help giving you a sense of direction. Yes, there is a mission, but also there are goals that will give you sense of direction. This deen came to achieve goals. On top of all these goals, justice. So you're gonna have, if you are a true Muslim, you have to be an advocate of justice and just causes. And whenever you come across a just cause, ask yourself, what can you do about it? Sometimes you can do that much, sometimes you can do much more. Sometimes it's about your time, sometimes it's about your money, sometimes about your signature, whatever you can do. Helping in any just cause. So that's the transformation of the individual. That's the key to it. We need to move. If you remember, we spent several series of khutbah elaborating on the contrast between what Quran calls it, Islam al-Arab, as it came in the end of Surah Al-Hujurat, Islam al-Sha'air, Islam al-Arab, to the true Islam. قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم إنما المؤمنون إنما exclusive الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا في سبيل الله بأموالهم وأنفسهم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the end of Surah Al-Hujurat established the contrast between Islam al-Arab, which largely applies to us nowadays. Islam al-Arab meaning people who accept this deen, but it doesn't enter their hearts. It does become vibrant. It's something on the side. Something that and between the true Islam, which when you commit yourself to do the job, whatever it takes. Jahadu, again, has nothing to do with fighting or killing, but they strive, meaning they do their best. They do their utmost. For what? Fi sabilillah, meaning to fulfill the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, achieve those goals of the deen. To fulfill that mission and achieve the goals of the deen. Just imagine, we're talking about this while the majority of Muslims are not aware that there is a mission in Islam. Never mind to understand what it is. Never mind to fulfill it. They are not aware that there is something like this that exists even. There is a mission and there are maqasid. There are goals in this deen, and it is your job to understand and fulfill. There are people who are not aware that these things exist. And of course, some people have the superficial or the wrong understanding of it, etc. The key to this, or something that can help us absorbing the need for that transformation. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in a hadith, "Inna al-iman la yabla kama yabla thawb. Ala fajaddidu imanakum." Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Iman, faith, tends to wear out like clothes." So what's the solution? Renew it. Renew your faith. And we do that all the time. When your car becomes very bad, you go and change it. When your clothes become bad, you change it. But faith, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that faith is also the same way. If you don't take good care of it, if you don't maintain it, or even if you maintain it, it will tend to wear out. So it is about time for each of one of us to try this exercise. It's as if you're entering Islam fresh. Refresh, as you do with your computer. Reset, refresh, restart. When things become messy, that's what you do. When your computer freezes, you just have to restart it. So that's what we need, is as if we're let me try to understand the true Islam, not the Islam that was given to me, which I found convenient and I liked it and accepted and became a habit now. No, I want to know the true Islam. And then when I find it, I will decide to commit to it or not. Hopefully everybody will do. And the key word between the two versions of Islam is commitment. The main difference is the level of commitment. To what extent you are committed. So it is understanding and it is commitment. So just reflect on these, reflect on that gap that need to be closed. Try to change our discussion from vain talk, from laghu and chatting, into diagnosis and finding solution. Try to think of yourself as stakeholder, not spectator. Confront reality as is and start to go through this journey of transformation. And if you as individual and we together as group or collectively are sincere and serious, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide our steps and makes it easy or easier for us to do it. And keep in mind that this deen, this wonderful deen, create that great success story in a situation and condition that are much worse than ours. It cannot be worse. Actually, the people before Islam in the Arabian Peninsula, it cannot be worse than that. I mean, poverty, illiteracy, small in numbers, desert, tribal society, you name it. If you try to think that it could not be worse. Just for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tell us that nobody should have an excuse. If this deen created that great success story in those conditions, until the day of judgment, nobody will have any excuse to fail. Anybody else probably can be excused to fail. Muslims cannot, because they have a deen that made a great success stories in the most unfavorable conditions. وَتُوبُ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه. نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. My dear respected brother and sister in Islam, I hope that we again take these matters seriously. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us accountable, at least until you do everything you can. You are at fault and you're going to be held accountable. Now, if you do everything you can and you try to call others to do what they can, and then you fall short, that's Allah does not ask people to do more what they can do. Now, all of this transformation, all of this change, all of this closing the gap starts with one key word, which is fahm, or understanding, or learning, or knowledge. That's the key. Without this, we're going nowhere. Without having that curiosity and drive to learn more, become very thirsty for knowledge. Hikmah dallatul mu'min. Very thirsty to understand our deen, very thirsty to understand this world. And always having in your back of your mind of understanding so that you can do something. It's not understanding just for the sake of understanding. Until we develop that curiosity and that thirst for knowledge about our deen and about life and about this world, etc. So that we can, first of all, ourselves, that knowledge can help us, take us to the next level, and then with that knowledge, we can affect change. Cars work with fuel, human being works with knowledge. There is nothing more, nothing less. Without that knowledge, the whole process does not start. You are not going to change without knowledge, and you are not, and of course, if you don't change, you cannot be part of change. It is knowledge and commitment, or commitment and knowledge. It's a commitment to go all the way, and the journey starts with seeking knowledge and being very thirsty of knowledge. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا وتوفنا وانت راض عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير أيامنا ومن نلقاك ومتعنا اللهم بالنظر إلى وجهك الكريم. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا وجميع موتى المسلمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وأقم الصلاة.